Here comes a new challenger!
Hello there everyone, and welcome to a video in which I discuss why I think Bowser is worse than K Rool. I've had this question before on my tier list. Why do I think K Rool is a tier above Bowser? Why do I think K Rool is the second best heavyweight in the super heavyweight in the game, rather? And I'm just gonna go by it bit by bit. First of all, their competitive history, not that much to go through. Bowser's only real rep, obviously there are more Bowser players, but the only one that really made it far was Leon. And Leon, or Leon, however the tag is pronounced, has made it very far with Bowser in the past and has beaten very notable players, one of which being Cosmos. But here's the thing. Bowser as a character, just like with many characters in this game, you gotta learn the matchup. And if you don't learn the matchup, well then you're gonna get smoked. Obviously, not many people have Bowser experience. A testament to how balanced Ultimate is, really, because you're not really gonna find a lot of characters that may show up in your front door to give you a bad time. And Bowser's just one of those characters. Leon did very well with Bowser very early on. But as time went on, you might have noticed that he started placing a little bit worse and worse over time, and he hasn't really made many grand appearances in like a top 8 or top 16 versus when he first started getting notable, right? As for K Rool, the most notable player is Ben Gold, but there's also Tweak, who almost beat Goblin, if not for the fact that he took him to Yoshi's and completely got dominated. Don't take Roy to Yoshi's. But for that first game, Goblin seemingly didn't know what to do. And it's funny too, because unlike, well, Bowser, there should have been a lot of experience for at least K Rool, considering how popular K Rool was at the time. And now, well, obviously he got worse, so worse and worse. But then they started buffing him in very unique ways that I'll be getting into. However, because of the pandemic, well, Ben Gold lives in Australia, and so you weren't really going to see much of him, unfortunately. And Tweak is sort of seemingly stuck with Diddy Kong. So when it comes to K Rool's representation, I kind of feel that, yeah, it's pretty much just Ben Gold at this point. Though there are others, obviously. There are a lot of other players that are online players, but I don't really like saying, oh, well, this player is very notable because Wi-Fi. I don't think Wi-Fi is a good indication of player skill, in my opinion. I think offline is because you actually have reactions versus online. Hey, that's just my opinion. You know, you can hate me for it, but that's how I genuinely feel. So there you go. So now let's get into the nitty-gritty of both characters. So for Bowser, Bowser has some strengths. One, he is the heaviest character in the game, obviously, right? He's the biggest boy in the entire game, which means he lives the longest. Typically, right? I mean, when it comes to getting knocked out, usually he won't be Sentinel Blast on that hard. Obviously, he has some recovery problems, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Then he has Tough Guy, which allows him to go through, you know, small multi-hits of such. Similarly, like Rapid Jabs, for instance, is a good example. There's like a couple other moves, like a couple multi-hit aerials that Bowser will just go right through. Magic Burst is another example, right? He can go right through Magic Burst and just punch Hero out of it, which is pretty funny. But, you know, Tough Guy is pretty neat in those situations because some characters, the way they would edge guard other characters, like Hero, for example, let's say Hero had fully charged Magic Burst, obviously he can't use that against Bowser, whereas every other character would get hit, right? So that's just an example of what I mean. Another thing Bowser has is very good damage, especially on shield, and has the neutral B of a demon. Alright, that flamethrower, the damage output it has is insane. It's incredible. Bowser's damage output, when it comes to that move in particular, is scary. So, you know, there's some damage for you there. Of course, he has armor on smash attacks and tilts, and even has, not really armor, but more so invincibility on his up smash, for example. Right, so he has like a bunch of armor moves, right? Pretty good, seemingly. Doesn't have bad throws at all. Has some kill confirms here and there. Obviously, has the up B, right? The up B that everyone gets hit by. But because, well, I mean, you're not really spacing too well, I would say. That's my argument. I mean, for me, I play characters like Ryu and Ken, and once I kind of learned how Bowser functions, I kind of just space around his shield, because even if he throws an up B, he won't be able to catch me, and therefore, you know, I get a free punish because of how much lag that move has. So, you know, that's just me, right? I mean, that's just my opinion. Hey, you know, maybe not every character can space around it very well. I don't play every character in the roster, except they sort of do, but I don't main every character in the roster, so I don't know every single matchup. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are matchups where you'll always get hit by that upbeat. Maybe. I don't know. But just like with any heavyweight, Bowser has some problems just dealing with disadvantage. He's got to get hit a lot. He's got to take up a lot of damage. In my opinion, when it comes to it, let me put it like this. You can be the heaviest character in the game, but still be combo food, and still be two-touched. Versus a lighter character, but depending on how their hurt box is, Sephiroth, we'll use Sephiroth as an example. Sephiroth can live relatively for a long time because of how awkward it is to hit him and how awkward it is to fight against him, right? So typically, Sephiroth isn't the character that, while yes, he is light, he's the same weight as Mewtwo. Sure, you're gonna find that it's very awkward to hit him at times. Like, for instance, for whatever reason, Shakunetsu, if he's running towards it, he could just run and then shield, right? He'll still get hit by the first hit, but then the rest of the hits won't hit, which is really weird that it won't hit. You know what I mean? So yeah, being the biggest character in the game isn't really that big of a benefit, you know, because even if you're the heaviest, if you're still combo food, then you're still combo food, and if you have a weak recovery like Bowser does, then, well, there you go, right? He has a pretty bad disadvantage, all things considered. Doesn't really have the best moves to get out of disadvantage, he just sort of is forced to take it. No real good landing options. I mean, you have down B, you have down air. That's really about it, and those moves are super easily punishable, right? There's a lot of lag in those moves. You can punish Bowser pretty easily. Just remember that Bowser has a sort of grounded hitbox when he lands with down air, for instance, so you gotta watch out for that. So typically what I do is that I jump over and hit him, basically. That's what I typically do, hey, you know, or say Byleth, for instance, I up B out of shield and, you know, hit him with the up B bada boom combo, whatever, right? So that's the way I see it. His up B is pretty exploitable. He has a hard time dealing with projectiles, all things considered. I mean, yes, there are projectiles he can straight up armor through, there are disjoints he can straight up armor through, but those are very few projectiles, you know what I mean? Like, how often are you gonna see a Mii Gunner throw out an F smash against Bowser when they could just be throwing out missiles and a neutral B against Bowser, right? And that'll keep him away, because even though he's relatively fast-ish for what most super heavyweights are, at the end of the day, he doesn't really have a proper way of getting in, doesn't really have the greatest landing option, and therefore, you know, it's pretty easy to punish him, right? Again, it's just a thing where you have to learn the matchup, because even though Inkling in theory shouldn't be good against Bowser, because Bowser armors through the multi-hit jab, which obviously does a lot of ink, right? And therefore Bowser will take a lot more damage. Bowser's still combo food for Inkling. Inkling can pretty much move around Bowser, and there's nothing to do, space around him, and edge guard him really, really well. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't think that people just understand the Bowser matchup, or people are very much blinded by Wi-Fi. And obviously there are more benefits to Bowser and more disadvantages to Bowser that I didn't mention, but in my opinion, I do think Bowser is a much weaker character than K Rool, and here's why. So for K Rool's weaknesses, similarly, he does have a pretty bad-ish disadvantage. However, he does have one move he can use, being his Nair. We'll get to his Nair a little bit later, but just hold on to that thought. Another bad-ish thing is, again, exploitable recovery. If he isn't recovering low, then if he's trying to recover like the middle, right? Or let's say you get thrown at like an angle, right? You're like down left or down right, whatever. Then they can pretty much two-frame you pretty easily. Yeah, his up B goes very far, and it is kind of hard to punish it from above unless you have like a disjoint, or your move like clashes, right, with the up B. So like say Ganon downer, Ganon will still get hit, but if he still gets the downer hitbox on K Rool, then, you know, it wasn't really a loss, you know what I mean? So yeah, still exploitable recovery, but not as bad. He has an armor mechanic similar to Bowser, however his armor can break, and if it breaks it's pretty much the same as getting a shield break on K Rool. Once you hit it, you can pretty much charge like a fully charged F smash as an example, right? If you break his armor. Another thing you could do with, well, Bowser. Another thing about K Rool is that he does have some very laggy-ish moves, like up air is fast, right? Up smash is fast, but the lag of those moves, the end lag of those moves are pretty bad. So, you know, K Rool can't really spam too many moves, but overall I would still say it's a bit better than what Bowser can do. Not as big hitboxes, but still pretty good. He's also the second heaviest character in the game, second obviously only to Bowser, but still being second heaviest is not bad at all, because again, you live for a pretty long time, and even though similar to Bowser, K Rool is a punching bag, there are a few reasons why I don't think so as much. He also has really good grabs. He has 2 kill throws, up throw and back throw at ledge, and he also has setups for down throw that are either kill setups or whatever the case may be, whatever K Rool does from his down throw. And forward throw is pretty good at comboing at early percents, primarily at 0 to dash attack. So yeah, K Rool's got some stuff, and you know, let's just jump right into it. So his benefits. Some minor benefits. He has a counter slash reflector, which is pretty good. Having a counter that's also a reflector is pretty good. It's not the best counter in the world because you can still hit him from behind. It's only a counter that hits from the front, but still having a counter slash a reflector is still pretty good. And if someone tries to edge short you, you can literally jank them out, because if you may or may not know this, you can actually, get this out, turn around the counter. So say a Falcon, disgusting, deplorable, they want to edge guard the masterful K Rool, you can literally just hit them with the counter, turn it around, and I forget, it's like, if it's nair, I think it's like nair or side B or whatever. Yeah, if you nair K Rool, and K Rool turns it around, then you get sent to the blast zone. And I find that utterly hilarious and amusing to watch. There's a clip of it, but I don't know if I'll be able to find it for this video. But if I do, I'll show it. So obviously, there's that small benefit. Another benefit he has is he has actual projectiles, with high priority, nonetheless, and having high priority projectiles are pretty good. Obviously, cannon isn't like the greatest, and while Crown, it's more like a boomerang. They're still very potent moves, Crown allowing you to get combos, and even crown sliding, which is interesting. And you basically grab the crown, or you can throw the crown and wave bounce it, but the wave bounce in itself can give you some sliding properties, right, which is very interesting, right? It has extremely good armor, separate from the belly armor, which means that, in a sense, it's actually a pretty decent landing option. Because if, say, someone tries to approach you from the sides, or, you know, somewhat from the bottom, not like directly under, but like at like an angle, you can still wave bounce a projectile, right? You have crazy amounts of armor, and then you can catch back the crown, and they got to deal with this high priority projectile that goes forward and back, comes back, right? So that's beneficial. It also kind of goes through a stage sometimes it doesn't, but it is what it is. Obviously, if you lose the crown, that is a detriment, because now the crown can be used against you as a projectile. However, if you're smart with how you utilize the projectile instead of just throwing it out randomly, you'll find that you won't really be in that horrible position all the time, right? It's just about knowing how to utilize the side B. A lot of people just throw it out, you know, but if you throw it out just willy-nilly, obviously you're going to get grabbed and get thrown, and you're going to lose your crown, and then your opponent's going to use your crown against you. So again, you got to be smart with how you mix things up. Another thing is he has pretty good ledge trapping. Obviously, dealing with the blunderbuss's vacuum is pretty obnoxious, right? I believe it's called the blunderbuss. It's very obnoxious, right? Especially since K Rool can hold down and go through platforms, and dealing with that automatically is kind of annoying for some characters. Not every character has a hard time against it, and definitely some other characters like Zirsu or Meta Knight can easily go around it, but still, it is an obnoxious tool to deal with, along with the fact that K Rool has pretty fast moves and has some pretty good armor tools. And so let's talk about the armor. In terms of his armor, it can break. However, it was buffed, so it can tank a lot more than what it used to before. For instance, one of the things it can tank now, as an example, even though it's an item, is a home run bat. Or if you want to use a character, it can tank a Bowser F smash or a Ganon F smash. So yes, at full health, it can take a lot. Obviously, that just means that smaller moves will easily lose to K Rool's belly, which is pretty good. It basically means that if a character at ledge, for example, tries doing a roll get up, normal get up attack, or drop down from ledge, double jump into an aerial, right? K Rool's down smash will clank with the get up attack, and he'll clank with the rising aerial, and that's gonna be pretty big damage because that thing kills. All right, kills, does some really good damage, has armor, and it just catches people like you wouldn't believe, right? Then you have the up smash, which is frame 6, I believe. It's super fast. It has a small narrow hitbox, but it's still very dangerous to basically be above K Rool. And say, for instance, with down throw, if you know they're gonna hard mash to try to escape it, then up smash will easily kill like 80 for most characters. So again, very, very, very scary to basically be above K Rool, because yeah, up air has some lag when you land, yeah, up smash has some lag, but it's still kind of a threat, right? Like, you have that threat, which means most people try to approach K Rool from the side, right? Because if K Rool's really good at catching people's landings, then obviously you're gonna want to get back on stage in a different way, in which case he has tools for those situations as well. I think people need to kind of realize a few things about K Rool, right? He has a pretty good out of shield option. While it's not as good in terms of hitbox and how fast it comes out compared to Bowser's up B, Rising Nair is still good because it has armor, right? So you can end up beating out moves, and it has very low lag, therefore it's pretty good with landing on the opponent, and you can get a combo off of weakened air, right? Another amazing change that they did was the back throw change. And what back throw did was that it sends at such a disgusting angle that you can literally just fall off the stage with Nair, and that'll beat out a lot of recoveries that aren't things like teleport recoveries, for instance, or recoveries like Sonic's or Mega Man's that they can just sort of jump around and hop around, right? And Meta Knight is virtually impossible to edge guard, honestly. But you kind of get my point, right? Even tether recoveries are not safe, because if tether recoveries clank with K Rool's belly armor, they don't win. Not even Byleth. If Byleth tries to hit K Rool's belly armor, it's not going to work. You can't latch on to K Rool. You just die. And just like with Bowser, there are many other benefits that I didn't mention. There are many other downsides I didn't mention. But the main point I'm trying to get at here is that I think people don't see K Rool as good because a lot of players will tell you that K Rool is bad. When in my opinion, I don't see it that way. I think he's the second best heavy in the game. I think Bowser is really overrated and is just a character in which you have to learn the matchup. I would say that K Rool has a lot more tech that I wasn't really talking about, right? Like, he has crown sliding, sorry. But there's much more to him, and you can always find that in the K Rool Discord, which literally has so many notes, like it's a Bible in there, okay? You go in that server, they have all these notes on how to deal with certain matchups. They have notes for what things you should use against these characters. I have notes for like every little thing. Literally, it's a Bible. All right, it's a Bible's worth of notes for a crocodile. Think about that. That's insane. But that is what K Rool mains have done for the character. So not only do you have a really good heavyweight, but then you have all these notes on the side. So if you ever want to try K Rool, well, there you go. You got the holy Bible of K Rool tech right then and there, right? Obviously, it's a joke. You know, it's a joke, but the joke being is that's a large bit of text, right? You'll never finish reading all of that in a single day. I promise you. Okay? If you do, you're a freak. You didn't sleep. You didn't take any breaks. You just went through it straight away. It's horrifying, right? But there's a lot that people don't know about K Rool, and since K Rool didn't have many results offline before the pandemic, and since K Rool, you know, isn't really seen all too much online either, like Bowser is not really seen all too much online either, right? Obviously, I'm talking about tournaments, right? You won't see Bowser all that much. You do see a bit more K Rool, I've noticed, I've looked, but overall, you won't really see them all too much, right? At the end of the day, they're both strong characters, but K Rool's just better. But none of what I said really matters, because despite me describing K Rool to you, and despite me talking about how great K Rool is, and how powerful his character is, and yada yada yada, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Because Charizard is the best super heavyweight in the game, baby! The best one in the game. That's right, subscribe, 10 out of 10 character, bada boom. Press the red button, hit that bell, like the video, comment down below your opinions. But Charizard the best super heavyweight in the game, bada boom! Peace! Charizard the best heavyweight in the game.